Um, the Unteachables, Chapter 2, Mr. Kermit. The first day of school. I remember the excitement. New students to teach, new minds to fill with knowledge, new futures to shape. The key word is remember. That was 30 years ago. I was so young, not much older than the kids, really. Being a teacher was more of a job. It was a calling, a mission, true mission, impossible. But I didn't know that back then. I wanted to be a teacher of the year. I actually achieved that goal. That was when the trouble started. Anyway, I don't get excited by the first day anymore. The things that still get me 55-year-old motor running are the smaller pleasures. The last tick of the clock before 3:30 bell sounds, waking up in the morning and realizing it's Saturday, the glorious voice of the weather forecaster, due to the snowstorm, all schools are closed. It sounds like he doesn't like being a teacher anymore. And the most wonderful word of all, retirement. The first day of school means it's only 10 months away. My younger self never would have imagined I turned into this kind of teacher who'd be crunching numbers, manipulating formulas, and counting the nanoseconds until I can kiss the classroom and everybody in it goodbye. Yet, here I am. I sip from my super large coffee mug. The other teachers call it the toilet bowl when they think I'm not listening. They gripe that I owe extra money to the faculty coffee fund because I drink more than my fair share. Tough. The students are bad enough, but the dunderheads who teach them are even worse. Colleagues, they don't even know the meaning of the word. A fat lot of support they ever offered me when I was all going wrong. Mr. Kermit, Dr. Thaddeus was standing over me in the faculty room, his $3,000 suit tailored just so. Superintendent, major dictator, a legend in his own mind. Christina Vargas, the principal, is with him. Nice to see you, Zachary. How was your summer? Hot, I tell her, but she keeps on smiling. She's one of those good ones, which puts me on the guard. Thaddeus uses her to do his dirty work. Something is coming. I can smell it. There's been a change in your schedule, the superintendent announces. Christina will fill you in on the details. As you know, Mary has left the district, the principal says. So we're moving you into her spot with this self-contained special 8th grade class. I stare at her. You mean the Unteachables? Mr. Thaddeus brittles. We don't use that term. Every teacher in the building knows what they are, I fire back. They're the kids you've given up on. They've had their chance in 6th grade and 7th grade, and now you're just warehousing them until they can get into high school's problem. They're a challenging group, Christina says, which is why we've chosen a teacher with a great deal of experience. Of course, the superintendent goes on pleasantly. If you don't feel that you're up to the job, light dawns. So that's what this is really about. Thaddeus figures that if I qualify for early retirement after this year, he doesn't want the school district on the hook supporting me forever. The Kermit men lives till 95 minimum. My grandfather is 106, is still president of the shuffleboard club at Shady Pines. That's why they're giving me the Unteachables. They aren't interested in my experience. They want my resignation, meaning they want him to quit. I looked the principal right in his snake eyes. You're just trying to make me quit before I qualify for early retirement. His response is all innocent. You're up for retirement already? I think of you as so young. It still seems quite recent, that horrible Terra Nova incident. The media attention, the public outcry, the scandal. Well, there it is. Jake Terra Nova. Thaddeus is never going to forgive and forget, even though it wasn't my fault. Or maybe it was. They were my students after all, and it happened on my watch. What a hypocrite. Thaddeus wasn't superintendent then. He had Christia's job, the principal. And did he ever take the credit when a class at his school scored #1 in the country of the national aptitude test? He squeezed every ounce of glory out of that. Interviews, profiles in magazines. And when there was traffic in the driveway, you could beat it, was because of the TV station mobile unit was on the way to interview the high lord of all principals. until the truth came out. A kid named Jake Terranova had gotten hold of the test and charged his classmates $10 a pop for a copy of it. That's why they aced it. They were all cheating. And when the whole thing blew up, Thaddeus was there to take the heat the way he had acclaimed, not on your life. The teacher was to blame. That's who I've been ever since. The guy who I was the teacher whose class gave the entire Greenwich School District a black eye. Officially, life went on after that. No one revoked my teaching certificate or docked my pay or kicked me out of the union. But everything was different. When I stepped into the faculty room, people stopped talking. Colleagues wouldn't look me in the eye. Administration kept changing my department. One year it was English, then math, French, social studies, even phys ed. Me with 2 left feet. I went into a blue funk. Okay, that wasn't the school's fault, but it began to affect my personal life. My engagement to Fiona fell apart. That was on me. I was lost in my own misery. Worst of all, the one thing that was most important to me, teaching, became a bad joke. The students didn't want to learn? Fine. I didn't particularly want to teach them. All I wanted to do for my paycheck was show up. Until next June, when early retirement would carry me away from all of this. And now Thaddeus thinks he can make me throw that away too, just to avoid a year with the Untouchables. The Unteachables. Obviously, the superintendent doesn't have the faintest idea who he's messing with. I would happily go into room 117 with a pack of angry wild cats before I give him the satisfaction of forcing me out. Okay, so it sounds like he was the teacher when this kid sold the test answers to everybody, and then they all aced it, and then they all blamed the teacher. Shouldn't the kid have been the one to blame if he was giving out the test answers to all the kids? I look from the superintendent to the principal and back to the superintendent again. I enjoy a good challenge. I pick up the toilet bowl, that's his coffee mug, and walk out of there, careful to keep the big mug steady. Can't risk spilling coffee all over myself. It would spoil the dramatic exit. 3 decades in this school, and never once have I set foot in room 117. I know where it is, though. From the stint of physical education, someone has to be in the remotest classroom in the entire building, but I decide to be offended by it. It's just another part of the conspiracy to force me out. Well, it won't work. After all, how bad can these Unteachables really be? Behavior issues, learning problems, juvenile delinquents. Does Thaddeus obviously think I'd never crossed paths with students like that throughout my 30 years in a classroom? Bad attitudes? The kid hasn't been born with an attitude that's half as bad as mine at this point. Face it, the Unteachables can only hurt you if you try to teach them. I gave up teaching anybody anything decades ago. Since then, my relationship with my classes has been one of uncomfortable roommates. We don't much like each other, but everyone knows that if we just hold our noses and keep our mouths shut, we'll eventually get what we want. For me, that means early retirement. For the SCS 8 students, it means being promoted to 9th grade. That part's a slam dunk, because surely the middle school is dying to get rid of them. What would they want to do to get held back? Burn the whole place to the ground? I walk into the new classroom. A roaring fire is in the wastebasket. Smoke pouring through the open windows. Kids toasting marshmallows on the end of pencils. Pencils catching fire. One crazy training seeing if it can get an eraser to burn. An escapee standing outside in the bushes gazing in, eyes filled with fear. A boy draped over a desk fast asleep, oblivious to all of it. Most kids would scramble to look innocent and be sitting up straight with their arms folded in front of them once a teacher puts in an appearance. Not this crew. If I came in with a platoon of ski marine paratroopers, it wouldn't make any more of an impression. I stroll over to the flaming wastebasket and empty the giant cup of coffee onto the bonfire, which goes out with a sizzle. Silence falls in room 117. Good morning, I announce, surveying the room. I'm your teacher, Mr. Kermit. only 10 months until June. Oh, so maybe every chapter is going to be a different person's perspective. Let's see. Chapter 3. Parker, I love the sound of pickup trucks. Let me start again. I love the sound a pickup truck makes when the motor roars to life. It's even cooler now with that little muffler problem. That'll only last until Mom and Dad save up enough money to fix it. Even without the extra noise, though, it's still awesome. I look down at the start button. Eugene Rat's Pots, whatever that is. That's what I first saw the first time anyway. Now I know it really says engine, start, stop. Oh, he has trouble reading. That's what reading is like for me. I see all the letters, but they're kind of mismatched. Like my class at school, which is SCS8, although it looks like SS8C or S8SC or even CS8S. It messes me up the first a little until I figure out where I have to go. And then it doesn't matter what order the letters and numbers are in. The pickup jousts over the packed dirt of the driveway before bumping up to the paved roads where our property ends. Our farm is right outside town, so I haven't gotten very far when the police car pulls up beside me. The cop gives me a thorough once-over with his eyes. I'm used to it. I'm kind of small for my age, so I look like a 12-year-old out for a joyride. I thought the new girl's eyes would pop out of her head when I jumped down from the pickup on the first day of school. Or maybe that's an expression she gives everybody who knocks her book bag halfway to the moon. Let's set the record straight. I'm 14. They don't let you drive any younger than that, no matter what your special situation is. It's okay, though. The police around here all know me. The cops roll down his window and peers into the flatbed of the pickup, taking notice of several bushel baskets of fresh tomatoes. You're just taking those over to the farmer's market, right, Parker? He calls. Right, officer. And straight to school after that? I shake my head. First, I have to pick up Grams. The cop frowns. Grams? My grandmother, I explain. I have to take her to the senior center, then school. That's why I have a driver's license in 8th grade. It's a provisional license, although to me it actually looks like more like a RAVALSNOOPIICELENS. I'm allowed to drive the pickup so long as it's for the farm business or for Grams, who's pretty old and sometimes kind of confused, no offense. My folks both work crazy hours on the farm, so I'm the only one who's free to pick her up at her apartment and take her to the center where she hangs out all day. Then I drive to school, and after school I pick her up and take her back to our house for dinner. She doesn't live with us, though. She refuses to give up her own place. My independence, she calls it. The law says I can do all this because running a farm is considered a hardship. That's pretty stupid because we actually prefer living outside the city and having tons of open space when everyone else is stuck on a little postage stamp of grass. Plus, we don't have livestock, so we don't have to do any of that really gross farm things, like sticking your hand up a butt of a sick cow. I've only seen it on TV, but hard pass. I drop off the tomatoes at the market, watching the clock impatiently, while Mr. Sardo weighs everything to the millionth of an ounce. Then straight to Grams. She's waiting for me in the lobby of her apartment building, but she's wearing a winter coat, and it's like 80 degrees out. So I have to park, and we go upstairs to put away the coat. And by the time I return from the closet, she's in the kitchen warming up leftover meatloaf for me. But Grams, I'll be late for school. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day, kiddo. I used to like it when she called me kiddo, but now I'm pretty sure it's because she can't remember my name. It bums me out. And to be fair, she called me kiddo before she forgot my name too. The difference is now it's the only thing she calls me. I already had breakfast, I tell her. You want mashed potatoes with that? She asked. It won't take long. No thanks. This is fine. Obviously, I eat the meatloaf. It's actually pretty good. Graham can still cook, even though she's forgotten most other things. She's been knitting me a sweater for the past 3 years that she can't seem to finish. I've gotten a lot bigger in that time, but it's okay because so is the sweater. It's draped over the back of the couch, a mass of drop stitches, hanging strands, and random colors. It looks like a giant psychedelic wool amoeba. I gulp down the food as fast as I can, but it still throws off my schedule. By the time I drop Grams at the senior center, I'm already hear the bell ringing at school. With my grandmother, there's always something to slow you down. If it isn't meatloaf, then she's buttoned her blouse wrong, or she's wearing slippers instead of shoes, or she's waiting for Grandpa to come home, even though he's died a long, long time ago. I'm used to being late. Graham is worth it. But it's my 4th time already, and it's only the first week of school. I barrel around the streets, busting the speed limits by a lot and blowing at least one stop sign. I screech into the school parking lot, leaving a small mark on the side of someone's BMW. Not good. Carefully, I back out and find another spot, this one on the opposite side of the lot. I put my trusty can of Scratch Guard out of the glove compartment and rub the evidence off my front bumper. And then I work on the Beamer a little. Not perfect, but it should keep Mr. S from noticing the damage long enough for him to have absolutely no idea where it had come from. This is usually the part where my day starts to go downhill. I love getting to school, the driving and all. But once I'm here, not so much. There's no problem with the building and the teachers okay, I guess. It just happens to be a place where I'm bad at everything that's considered important. I'm sad for him. It's a long walk to room 117. I take it slow because who wants to rush to something you hate? I'm already late though, so I open the door and walk inside, and before you know it, my feet slid out from under me and wham, I'm flat on my back on the floor. It gets a big laugh and a scattered applause from 6 kids who are already there. The only person who doesn't react is our teacher, Mr. Kermit. He never lifts his face from the New York Times crossword puzzle, except occasionally to take a sip from this humongous coffee cup. And that's not just today. He's like that all the time. Yesterday, when Barnstorm chucked one of his crutches and shattered the globe, the teacher didn't so much flinch, and not even with the Horn of Africa bounced off the side of his head. You could probably set up an atomic bomb on his desk and he never noticed. I scramble up, and when I turn back to the doorway to see what I tripped me, I go down again, on my face this time. I can smell the floor and taste it a little. There's butter all over it. Who greased the floor? I howl. The kids laugh louder, enough to penetrate the cone of silence and capture Mr. Kermit's attention. He glances up, seeing me flopping like a fish out of water, and quickly goes back to his puzzle. If he's not the worst teacher in the world, he's definitely bottom 5. Most embarrassing all is Kiana, who has rescued me. She's the girl whose backpack I hit with the truck. She hauls me far enough away from the buttered area that I can stand up straight again. My shoes are still pretty slippery, but at least I can walk to my desk. Kiana turns to the rest of the class. Who did that? Ram, who's fast asleep, lifts his head off his desk and looks like a deer in headlights. Did what? Let it go, I murmur, red-faced. Why should you, she demands. Someone buttered the doorway. Mr. Kermit's not going to stand for that. An absent-minded comes from the direction of the teacher's desk. Shh. I drag my broken body into my chair. Who's the mystery prankster who almost put me in intensive care? There's plenty of possibilities here. Barnstorm, the injured sports star, he gets away with everything. At least he did until they put him in SCS 8. Aldo, the jerk who flies off the handle every time the wind blows. Elaine, I sneak a look over my shoulder at the scariest girl in 8th grade. Oh, please don't let it be her. Elaine rhymes with pain. I'll probably never find out who buttered the floor. If it was Elaine, I don't want to. And when I glance up, Mr. Kermit is standing in front of me. At first, I'm flattered that he's come over to make sure I don't have a concussion, but no. He places a worksheet on my desk and wordlessly returns to his crossword puzzle. And that's what we do in special self-contained 8th grade class. At the beginning of each period, Mr. Kermit hands us a worksheet. No one does them. At least that's how it was in the beginning. There were lots of paper airplanes sailing around the room for the first few days. I figured Mr. Kermit would get mad, but he never made a peep about them. So the airplanes stopped. What's the point of making them if you couldn't get a rise out of the teacher? Eventually, it got so boring that the only possible thing to do was the worksheet. It's kind of hard for me, though, because the letters get all jumbled up. Even if it's math, they just ask what 5 plus 3 is. They have to make it into a story about 5 brown rabbits and 3 white rabbits having a rabbit together. And that's where I get lost. I'm hunched over my paper trying to make heads or tails of what seems to be unbreakable code, when at the desk beside me, Kiana sits down with her pen and peers at my paper, which is untouched at the minute I got it. "You haven't started yet?" she hissed. "Sure I have," I replied defensively. She isn't sold. "What question are you on?" "Number 1, I shout back. "I'm taking it slow, okay?" I return to work, staring at the letters, willing them to arrange themselves into a form that makes sense to me. I guess I look like a scientist peering into a microscope, because she blurts, "You can't read." "You can't read?" "Yes, I can," I said defensively. "I'm just pacing myself." She reaches over and plants a finger on question 1. "What does this say?" "There's no talking in class," I tell her. "You want to get us in trouble?" Mr. Kermit takes a long, loud slurp of his giant coffee. "Read it," she orders. And I don't. It's not that I can't, but it would take a long time. "I don't feel like it," I mumble. "Parker," she urges, "this is stupid. You can get help with this. You just have to tell the teacher. But nobody can help you if they don't know there's a problem." My eyes find Kermit. His attention never wavers from the crossword puzzle, even though Rahind and Barnstorm are sword fighting with rulers. And Aldo leaves the room altogether. If I have to depend on Mr. Kermit for help, I'm going to be older than he is before I get any. Oh my gosh. I don't know. Like, this isn't like a class. Like, the teacher is giving up, and these kids, they all seem to be giving up. And Parker can't read, and he really needs help. But maybe Kiana's going to help him, because now she knows that he can't read. Maybe she's going to teach him to read. I hope so. All right. It is. All 3 chapters, all different characters telling their story.